If you have any questions for any of our panelists, please put those in chat. Our Revolution local chapters are working hard supporting the community, fighting for the issues that are important to you. Our efforts are going into 2021. We'll focus on what you, our members and supporters, have told us is most important to you. Medicare for all, fighting for the environment, and bringing about campaign finance reform. Learn more later in the meeting. If you're just joining us, please put your name, where you're calling from, and what chapter you're with into chat. Also drop any questions for our panelists. Our Revolution launched our 2021 membership drive this month, and we ask that you consider becoming a sustained member like myself for as little as $5 a month. You can help support our work. You can sign up at the link in chat. Guys, again, if you're just joining us, please drop your name, where you're calling us from, and the chapter you're with into chat. And of course, let us know if you have any questions for any of our panelists. We'll be hearing from Linda Templin today on ranked choice voting. We'll hear from Kate with Colorado Rising on how we can end fracking here in Colorado. Liz Rosenbaum with the Fountain Valley Water Coalition will be joining us, as will DNC members Joe Salazar and Jeri Shepard. Guys, again, if you're joining us, please put your name, where you're calling us from, and what chapter you're with in chat. Again, we encourage you to become sustaining members for just as little as $5 a month. This is the first time ever with our Revolution becoming a member. We'll get you an actual membership card done by a local Our Revolution organizer in Nashville, Lauren Rowling. It's an Art Deco piece. I encourage everybody to get out there on that link and drop those donations for us. We can't do the work without you guys. You are our bread and butter that make everything that we do possible. That whether it's fighting for progressive issues or fighting to support progressive champions, we can't do it without you. Guys, again, if you're joining us, please drop your name, where you're calling us from in chat. I see we have Harima from Colorado Springs, Dennis from Pueblo, and Lyric McKnight in Denver joining us. Thank you guys for coming out today. I see Tim Dolan in El Paso County is joining us. Nicole Langley from Fort Garland. Thank you again, guys, for joining us on this beautiful Sunday Colorado evening. Let us know if you have any questions for any of our panelists. You can drop those in chat. Guys, we're about a minute away from starting our meeting. Is everybody ready? So those who are watching on Facebook, again, you can put your questions in chat in Facebook. And thank you for watching on Facebook. Again, even if you're not on this meeting with us and you're watching on Facebook, you guys are what makes all of this possible. So again, please contribute tonight and become sustaining members of our Revolution. With that, guys, I'd like to kick it over to our host this evening, Weston Roberts with Our Revolution Metro Denver.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Weston Roberts, Our Revolution Metro Denver event coordinator. We have a great lineup of speakers on tonight's call. We'll hear about ranked choice voting from Linda Templin, Executive Director of Ranked Choice Voting for Colorado. We'll hear from Kate Brown, Outreach Coordinator with Colorado Rising. And last but certainly not least, Joe Salazar of Colorado Rising will tell us about efforts to censure our new Senator, John Hickenlooper. And we'll tell you ways you can get involved and help grow the progressive movement along with our fundraising that we've been doing this month. But first, I want to turn it over to Anna Martavisky of Our Revolution National.
Good evening, Colorado. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you so much, Weston. I'm so happy to be with all of you tonight. I'm joining you as a regional organizer with Our Revolution. I'm based in New Jersey, but it is my honor to be working with an awesome state network in Colorado with a state coordinator who is doing so much amazing grassroots organizing, Anthony and Weston and Gary and Nita and many more Our Revolution Colorado members. As Anthony Jeri mentioned, we launched a membership program. That's our very first. We actually going to send people a card in the mail with their name on it. And we are asking all of you tonight to pitch in, become a sustaining member of our revolution. We are thriving on small dollar donations. This is all that we take, but we need many of you to chip in, pitch in, become a grassroots supporter of our movement. We are doing great work. We have a key strategic plan that we rolled out not so long ago, and we need that help to carry out this plan. Number one on the 4-point plan is holding Congress and President Biden accountable. Recently, President Biden sent an encouraging tweet saying that we need to go big on the COVID relief package. And this is the group, our revolution is the group that has the national infrastructure and also the local state networks that can hold his feet to the fire and hold him accountable. Yes, we need to go big. We need to make sure that he keeps on the promises that he has made. He has signed nearly 50 executive actions so far, and those are a good start, but we need him to do more, and we are calling him to do more. We need him to cancel student debt instead of just pausing it. And we are holding Congress accountable by calling on Democratic leaders to keep the $15 minimum wage in the COVID relief package. It is essential. And you can help us keep up the pressure on Joe Biden and Congress by becoming a sustaining monthly contributor, just $5, $15, $20 a month, whatever you can afford. Please chip in, become a member, and help us carry out this work coast to coast. Number two in our plan is electing progressive champions. In 2020, we did an amazing job. We doubled the squad, but 2021 is not an off year. As you well know, there are crucial elections, hundreds of elections taking place this year. And we are supporting someone whose name I'm sure is familiar to you. Our very own Nina Turner is running for Congress, and we have an amazing team in Ohio fighting to make sure that that race is a win for us. So we need your help to ensure that we strengthen these state networks, such as the Ohio team, and we carry Nina to victory. Number three is fighting for progressive policies, right? They go hand in hand, progressive champions with progressive policies. Last year, nearly 81%, what an amazing win rate, but nearly 81% of our state and local ballot initiatives won, including paid medical leave and family leave here in Colorado. Amazing, right? But we also fought and won in Florida, the $15 minimum wage. And this year, we are pushing Biden to cancel student debt, as I mentioned, declare a climate emergency. We are fighting corporate monopolies and more. We are fighting locally here in New Jersey, where I live, and with the teams that I lead, we passed 5 local Medicare for All resolutions. Change starts from the bottom up. This is what we do. This is what our groups are doing. Again, state by state, coast to coast. Become a member. Anthony, please drop the link to the Colorado membership signups into the chat. Number 4, and this is my final pitch to you. This is a uniquely Our Revolution mission that we are carrying out. No other group is doing this type of work. We are building a progressive party from the bottom up. We are transforming the party through electing progressive champions to county committee, to precinct captain levels, but also to DNC chairs. So from the bottom up to DNC chairs, we are deeply invested in transforming the party into a more progressive, representative, inclusive, and democratic party at its core. So again, we have an amazing 4-point plan that's strategic, that is carried out by strong, nimble but very efficient local teams like the one that is here in Colorado. So please sign up, become a member. That is my pitch to all of you. Again, it is my pleasure to be working with such an amazing and dedicated team. And with that, I'll kick it back to Weston.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for sharing about the 4-point plan. So up next, we've got Linda Templin with ranked choice voting for Colorado. Ranked choice voting is one of the next critical electoral reforms for Colorado. Our chapter has been encouraging education on all forms of alternative voting. Ranked choice is already in use statewide in Maine, locally in over 20 U.S. cities, and it was just approved by voters in Alaska. Here to tell us about bringing RCV to our state is Linda Templin, Executive Director of Ranked Choice Voting for Colorado. Welcome, Linda.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really delighted to be here, and I have to give a huge shout out to our Revolution Boulder, who helped us get a win in November in Boulder. So our mayor, our choice, won with 78% support. And so that expands the use of ranked choice voting in Colorado to one more municipality and the first large municipality that will be using it. And so what ranked choice voting does is it handles the problem where you feel pressured to vote, pick between the lesser of two evils on election day. And what happens is when you have a pick one plurality system, if you have more than two candidates, you run into trouble. For instance, in Aurora, they recently had Mike Kaufman win with 36% of the vote. So that was really unclear. If they had used ranked choice, who would have won? We don't know. We don't know because plurality doesn't find a majority winner in one election the way that ranked choice does. So here's an example of what the ballot looks like. So you are free to vote for the candidate of your choice and feel secure about it. So you just say who you love, who you like, who you can live with. If you don't like a candidate, you don't have to mark them anything on the ballot. Next slide, please. And the way it works in the tally is that you count everybody's first choice votes. And if somebody has a majority in the first round, then they win. Pretty straightforward. That happens in the majority of races. So the next slide has a graphic of what happens when you have less than a majority in the first round. And that is that what you do is you eliminate the candidate with the fewest first choice votes, and you look just at those ballots, right? Because you eliminate the candidate, but not those voters. So we see if it's cookies, we see that chocolate chip has the fewest votes. So when we eliminate chocolate chip, but not those voters, we see that their next choices are split between chocolate and peanut butter cookies. But the next slide shows you how we get the majority win is that we just add those to, if people can't have their very favorite, what is their next favorite? And that's how we find the consensus of the majority. So that's how it works. It's used in 25 different cities, and it's been used in the US for over 100 years. So it's very well proven to withstand legal scrutiny, to be more fair. It optimizes mail ballots, because if your candidate drops out at the last minute, side eye to Pete Buttigieg, but what happens to your vote is that you are protected because you've already said your next choice. And what it ultimately does is it frees the voters to say what they truly want. And that's why Bernie Sanders supports ranked choice voting. There is action at the federal, state, and municipal level. So Senator Bennett has an act to help with the cost of the implementation in municipalities such as Boulder. HR 1 and HR 4000 also help ranked choice. Again, there's a link in the chat to a longer version of the slides, and you can see all this information. Rep. Kennedy and Senator Feinberg and Rep. Arndt have put forth House Bill 21-1071, which will help the counties run the elections for the city. So the city of Boulder won't be stuck trying to run an election on their own. They can just hand it over to the county like they normally do to have the election run. Denver is looking at updating to ranked choice voting, and they are accepting public comment. So what this would do is they would refer it to the November 2021 ballot. So, and for other cities, contact your city council and let them know that you would like to see the elections modernized. So there it is. And we are delighted to answer questions and present to city councils.
Wow, that's great. We might get to vote on voting, which is exciting. That would have been very useful in Denver's mayoral race back in 2019, where we had a runoff election. I'd much prefer an instant runoff where all of us have our ranked choices in there. We probably would have had a different mayor. Who knows?
We'll never know.
Let's see here in the chat, we have someone. Diane Tipton said, "If I only want one candidate, why can't I pick that candidate for my second and third choice?"
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So the reason why we encourage parties to start using ranked choice early is to make sure that people really understand how it works. So what happens if you pick the same candidate first, second, and third, it's, you're fine in the first round, but if your candidate is eliminated, your vote becomes inactive because there's no place to go for it to go. You haven't indicated a next choice. So that's why you can't do that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And does the governor and secretary of state support RCV? And how does the RCV save taxpayers money otherwise?
Yeah, so that is fantastic. Governor Polis is a longtime supporter of ranked choice voting, and our Secretary of State is also very supportive, and her office has been fantastic to work with. Colorado runs the best elections in the nation for a reason. And I see a quick mention in the chat of Aspen. Aspen tried running its own election and they Aspened it up. So that's our unofficial slogan is don't Aspen it up. Make sure you run it right and that the clerks are fully supported. So what ranked choice will do for municipalities with a majority requirement is it will fulfill that requirement and help the military and overseas voters get their ballots on time by eliminating the runoffs. So in Denver, they'll save over $800,000 on the runoff, and they'll save around another $800,000 on the publicly financed campaigns. Colorado Springs spent over $500,000 on their last runoff.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, I understand you have different ways to raise money for your educational efforts too. I know there's a King Soopers points system set up too as well. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, yeah, I signed up for that myself. So that's pretty cool. You can donate to RCV for Colorado just by buying the essential needs that you need every day. Great. Well, thank you so much, Linda. We really appreciate your presentation, you joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
And moving on here, there are over 60,000 active wells in Colorado, and right now state regulators allow fracking within 2,000 feet from homes, schools, and playgrounds like Bella Romero. Here with an update on what is being done to protect our communities from fracking is Kate Brown, Outreach Coordinator for Colorado Rising. Kate was inspired to help communities in Colorado after she attended the Environmental Crisis Town Hall hosted by Bernie Sanders. She supports communities by helping to implement strategies against fracking. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Like Weston said, my name is Kate Brown. I'm the Outreach Coordinator with Colorado Rising. Thank you so much for hosting this space. With the 2020 wildfires, recent poor air quality in Denver Metro, and what we're seeing is happening in Texas, I think these conversations are very important to have. So I wanted to dive deep into who we are as an organization first. So Colorado Rising is a 501c4 grassroots organization that strives to keep fracking out of our backyards. We started as a grassroots group of organizers and activists advocating for safer setbacks. And now we are a powerhouse of community outreach, public education, policy change, and litigation. We're making it as hard as possible for the oil and gas industry to frack in our state. And because of doing so, we've been named the chief adversary in regulating this industry. So it's Very badass. We are known for our efforts with Proposition 112, which would have been a 2,500-foot setback from homes, schools, playgrounds, hospitals, and drinking water sources. And even though we were defeated, we still brought in over 1 million votes. And that's what inspired us to keep this momentum going. And since then, we have grown to a team of 8 organizers, which is 60% women and people of color led. And then recently in 2019, we formed a C3 sister known as Colorado Rising for Communities. This focuses on education and outreach, and our C4 focuses on political work, ballots, and candidate work. So I wanted to dive deeper into all of our programs. The first program I'm going to talk about is Justice Rising, led by our chief litigator, Joe Salazar. This is a program that takes legal action against the oil and gas industry and government bad actors. Recently, we launched the program in 2018. Since then, we have successfully held up permits in 3 different communities, including Broomfield, Commerce City, and Thornton. We fought for the strongest possible version of SB 181, which allows local governments more authority over oil and gas regulations. And since then, we launched an effort to reinstate Longmont's fracking ban that was overturned by the Colorado Supreme Court in 2016. And if we are to see Longmont's ban reinstated, this will cause a domino effect, and we will see more moratoriums and bans across the state. Since the passage of SB 181, we've played a leading role in the COGCC rulemaking process. And recently, we were able to see a 2,000-foot setback in the process, and that grew from 500 feet to 2,000 feet. Other litigation that we're working on is we are challenging forced pooling by arguing that it is unconstitutional to force the property owners to give up their mineral rights without consent. Another program we're working on right now is called Truth Rising. It's partnered with Progress Now. This is a digital and video education campaign. The oil and gas industry is spending millions of dollars on pro-industry campaigns every year. And we're being fed lies through TV commercials and advertisements. And they're basically feeding us that, that we owe our Colorado quality of life to them when they're actually really just destroying our environment and communities. So by doing these advertisements, we are going to reach a broader audience outside the green echo chamber. And then legislative and political work through our C4. We're working on building our political legs. In 2020, we worked on the Diane Mitch Bush campaign. We text banked over 103,000 texts. We also promoted Romanoff during the Senate primary. And coming up for this year, we're still watching for bills for the 2021 session, and we're considering a voter registration plan for CD3 for 2022. For federal, we definitely support an EPA ban on fracking. We're watching any pipeline work, and obviously we support the Green New Deal. We really want to focus on holding our politicians accountable. We hear so much about our public lands being the main resource on how we're going to fight climate change. And we were really disappointed to see how Hickenlooper and Bennett voted no on allowing the EPA to ban fracking. Another program that we have is called Climate Ready. This focuses on our representation, equity, diversion, and inclusion in the movement. We are part of the People of Color Roundtable. This focuses on increasing voter outreach among people of color and marginalized communities. We also hosted a solidarity symposium that highlighted the interconnection of our climate and social justice issues around healthcare, immigration, education, and elections. And we are actively working to stop permits, including areas like Commerce City. And then my work, I focus on helping to implement strategies against fracking. So coalition building with progressive organizations, businesses that align with our mission, local elections, so power building across the entire state. We're also on the state committee and executive committee for the Working Families Party. And more recently, I'm a council member with Our Revolution Metro Denver. So that's like a broad overview of everything that we do. If you're interested in standing up to the oil and gas industry, protecting residential areas, and combating climate change, we are definitely the perfect organization for that. I can drop my email in the chat, and then also our website if you want to learn more about it or sign up on our list.
Wow. Awesome. That's some very important work. We really appreciate that. As someone who works in the solar industry, I greatly appreciate that myself. So thank you for taking a stand against the fossil fuel industry. One of the major concerns with fracking is PFAs and forever chemicals, which are also a growing problem in Colorado's water. Last year, the state's Water Quality Control Commission voted unanimously to begin regulating PFAs, which are linked to a range of health problems. Our next guest is Liz Rosenbaum, founder and organizer of the Fountain Valley Clean Water Coalition. Her community is just south of Colorado Springs and is ground zero for PFAs. Welcome, Liz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Rosenbaum, and I live in southern end of El Paso County, and I've moved around a little bit. So I'm putting something in the chat here for you because some of the things you're going to hear me say, you're going to want to reference what I just put in the chat so it makes a little bit of sense with the closed captioning. So in 2016, we learned that in our community that our Widefield aquifer was contaminated with some PFC, PFAS chemicals. We didn't understand what that was. We just know in our community, we've had 5 different major water contaminations here. And you would think after the first couple, somebody would do something. Well, unfortunately, we all have to work together and continue that. And we're on year 5 now of somebody doing something. We spent the first 2 years just trying to figure out what PFAS was. As you know, we're not chemists. We're not, you know, some of us are science people in the group. I'm a former teacher and, you know, a community activist. So we learned what it was, and then we got some bills passed. So in this link that I have for you, CDPHE is our state health department. If you go to that link, it will list all the bills that we have gotten passed starting in 2019. So it took us almost 3 years to get it done. You have to be more persistent than PFAS. And PFAS is a forever chemical. So we're going to be at this for a while. I also put our Facebook page for our water coalition. Right now, we don't have a lot of activity going on because we got so much legislation passed. We're doing state health department meetings, just watching as they're implementing everything that we have passed. One of the things is, where is all of this PFAS chemical in our states? It's literally being disposed of with what Kate talked about earlier in fracking. The water that is so contaminated is also added to the water liquids that are used in fracking to dispose of it. There isn't a single study that shows or has been done of what happens then. That's how our whole nation is set up to react to contamination. And with the work that we've done with this water coalition and the amazing people at the state health department, we are now working towards prevention. So that is a pretty big deal with the Water Quality Control Commission. PFAS is about 4,000 different man-made chemicals. PFOA is Teflon. That is the most used, the ones that we kind of know the most about. And if you're in an area where it's manufactured, that's where the highest health effects are. It's not from us, you know, cooking eggs in a pan in our house. That's a different thing. It's the same level, but it's different than manufacturing it. PFOS, we used to all know Scotchgard, right? How many of us had little kids we took camping and we sprayed our tents and little kids' shoes because we could buy it on the shelf, not knowing it was deadly, you know? PFHXS, that is a chemical that contaminated the Widefield aquifer. So when the EPA put out 5 of the chemicals, they didn't include this one that is actually the one that's really contaminating a lot of our drinking water. This chemical concoction puts out jet fuel fires and fossil fuel fires. So one of the bills we passed adds a $25 charge to every fuel truck that drives through Colorado. So we can start funding the cleanup and the permitting process and some other things here. This is a different foam than what puts out forest fires. This is a Class B AFFF firefighting foam. So, Weston, I think you had a few questions.
Yeah, unless there's any in the chat here, I want to encourage people to throw questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Anything you have for Kate as well, or any of our other presenters. But where do forever chemicals come from, and is the problem statewide?
This problem is global. 2 years ago, I went to Boston for the second National PFAS Conference to talk with scientists from around the world, and I met a gal from Italy where there's a manufacturing company in her small little town that's contaminated her drinking water, and a firefighter from Australia. So here we're thinking, well, it's just here in the United States because that's where it was created when the World War I soldiers needed waterproof everything during World War I and trench warfare. Well, DuPont made this really awesome chemical, and they're like, hey, if we tweak it a little bit, we can do non-stick pans. This was all done before the EPA. And you've heard the term grandfather clause. Stop using it. It's from slavery. So if your grandfather could vote, you could vote. Let's start using exempts. These companies were exempt from all the restrictions that happened with the EPA. So whenever we do legislation now, we need to use the correct words that say everything and no one is exempt. We cannot do that to ourselves anymore. That's one critical thing that I learned. And, you know, for 2 years, we're trying to figure out what all this stuff is. And Shirley Chisholm has a really amazing saying, if there's not a chair, bring your own. We put the table together and we asked people to sit in a chair at our table because we couldn't figure out where that table was. We didn't know where the room was. So we invited them to our room and our table and gave them a chair. Sometimes that's what you need to do to get your community clean and safe drinking water. So guys, be more persistent than the forever chemical PFAS. You're gonna have to keep doing it, and it is worth it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that work. Sorry, go ahead. No,
this is amazing. I love meeting you activists and everybody online. I've got our Facebook SVCWC there, so you can send me a message on Facebook. And all of this is a worthwhile fight. You will never sit back when you're older and be like, man, I regret saving the planet. You know, nobody says that. So pick one of us and get involved. There's some great things in your community you can do to make it better.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, and moving on here, be sure you can still drop questions to any of our presenters in the chat and the Q&A toward the end. We'll try and round out. So in one of his first... Sorry, go ahead.
We have one quick question that just came up in chat.
Yeah.
They wanted to ask if Liz could verify if Suncor is still using the right foam to fight fossil fuel fires at the plant.
Oh, that is a great question. So on Thursday, there is a big online meeting. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, but you can go to the State Health Department website here, CDPHE, and get in on that. Yeah, if you want to be involved with that, this is the best exciting thing. So not only did our hard work fix what's going on in our community, it's helping people in Commerce City. So I'll give you my email. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really important to keep informing people about what Suncor is doing to our communities.
Yep.
I actually filmed a video there with my band a couple months ago just to try to push the message ourselves. So thank you so much for that work. Really appreciate that.
Keep pushing. Thank you.
Absolutely. So moving on here, thank you so much, Liz and Kate, for the work that you're doing. In one of his first acts as Colorado's new Senator, John Hickenlooper violated the state Democratic Party platform by voting for a Republican amendment to the COVID relief bill that would make undocumented immigrants ineligible to receive assistance provided for the bill. Here to discuss the effort to censure him are two Colorado DNC members, Joe Salazar, Executive Director of Colorado Rising and former state senator, and Greeley attorney Jeri Shepard. Sorry. Welcome, Joe.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you to the presenters who have already gone before us. Great presentations. Thank you very much, Linda, for that explanation about ranked choice voting. Big supporter of it, and I'm hoping that that you get it kicked off and passed across the state. Also, I had no idea that King Supers was doing points for this, and so I will make sure and link my card up with that, so that way my dollars could go to you, because that's pretty awesome. Alrighty, and good to see you, Liz and Kate. Thank you very much for your presentations. All right, so just as Weston said, one of the very first acts that Hickenlooper did as a U.S. Senator was during it's called a vote-a-rama, where you're voting on a number of amendments all in one night, and he voted on an amendment that would strip undocumented immigrants from getting COVID relief funds. Now, these individuals that we're talking about are frontline individuals. They are essential workers to us. They are putting food on our table. They are putting their lives at risk. They are first responders in many ways. And this is how Hickenlooper decided to go about honoring them, was to curry favor with a couple of racist, xenophobic senators and voting for their amendment. Now, subsequently has said that, well, that amendment really didn't mean anything. It was a message amendment, and the response was, well, what the hell message are you trying to send our undocumented communities? Especially since he campaigned in undocumented communities, campaigned in the Asian and the African and also the Latino communities, saying that he was going to protect the undocumented, our undocumented families. And that's what he did, is he turned around and he voted against undocumented families. So that triggered an avalanche of accountability against John Hickenlooper. And one of those accountability measures that we've used was developing a letter for a demand for censure that we submitted to the Colorado Democratic Party. I wrote the letter with an awful lot of editing and great input from Jeri Shepard, my other DNC member, and Radhika Nath. She was in India at the time, but she kept in contact with us and agreed also to put her name on that letter. And the reason why we did that is because, and I laid it out very carefully in our letter, is that number one is that our Colorado Democratic Party has very big ideas and very big support for our undocumented families. As a legislator back in 2013, we fought hard to reverse the anti-immigrant trend, the tide here in Colorado. We passed asset, we passed driver's licenses for all, we got rid of Senate Bill 90, and we moved forward as a state on honoring our undocumented families. I brought legislation to tamp down what Trump was trying to do here in the state of Colorado by using state and federal resources to target our undocumented families. And basically for the past numerous years, we've been serving as both the sword and the shield for our undocumented families here in the state of Colorado. And that's reflected in our Colorado Democratic Party platform. And so basically what Hickenlooper did is he took that platform, he blew his nose into it, and he threw it out the window in favor of these racist, xenophobic senators, one of them being Tom Cotton in Alabama. Now, they have no love for undocumented families, and we know this. And they stand on the side of white supremacists. They have not. They've been unapologetic about it, and that's who Hickenlooper voted with, were these individuals. And so we felt that it was incumbent upon us, particularly as DNC members, that we hold him accountable. As a matter of fact, DNC members have never acted this way before. In Colorado, we've never asked or demanded a censure of a sitting U.S. senator in the state of Colorado, or of anybody for that matter. And so, for us, we're not the DNC members of several years passed, I mean, we had some great DNC members. We had, Terry Tucker and a few others who were pretty amazing. And I'm sure that they would be all over this as well had they remained as DNC members. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to change the name of the game. I'm not one who likes to play the game based off of rules that were set up by people who don't look like me. And so we decided that we would move forward with this demand for censure. We cited the Colorado Democratic Party platform. We cited the history of immigrants here in the state of Colorado. We cited our efforts over the past 15 plus years of fighting against the anti-immigrant tide. And we noted how Hickenlooper basically cut this deal so that way he can get their votes on other things that he wants to pass in the future. So basically throwing our communities under the bus. So our demand for censure was very well supported. It was supported by data as well. I had links in there to data that demonstrated everything that we were saying. And so that's where we're at this point is we have been working with Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, the Latino Council, to ensure that Hickenlooper's feet are going to be held to the fire. And we will do exactly what the community asks us to do. So if Hickenlooper meets the demands of Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition and he meets those demands completely, then we might back off the demand for censure and we might ask for a resolution condemning his comments. But at this point, he hasn't met their demands, and so that demand for censure is sitting out there. So, Jeri, I'd turn it over to you if you have any further comments.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to everybody on this amazing program. I am honored to be serving you as one of the Colorado DNC members, and Joe and Radhika are awesome teammates on this endeavor. I can add a couple of comments. I've lived in Greeley since 1986. I moved there for work. On December 12th, 2006, which is also the feast day of the Virgen de Guadalupe, there was an ice raid that happened at the beef plant. The effects of that raid still resonate to this day in the community. So many of our friends in the Latino X communities weighed in with the other communities about how horrible this vote was. And we had a meeting online with Hick, and we thought that maybe he'll get it as to what the problem is. And at this point, he's still not getting it. We are hoping that he will be encouraged to see the light and to listen to community, listen to CERT. And as Joe laid out a thing that he could do. It's pretty simple. Listen to the people who are closest to the pain. I'm borrowing a phrase, I think, from Ayanna Presley on that. So we'll be taking this up one way or another at the State Central Committee meeting. As you know, we are allowed to submit resolutions within a time frame. So if you're on the State Central Committee, please uphold accountability for Senator Hickenlooper and encourage him to do better. You are encouraged to call his office. I can put both Bennett's and Hickenlooper's numbers in the chat if there's interest in that, or you can email me if you have further questions about things, or you can touch base with Joe or Radhika as well. I also want to touch base about another resolution that's coming up. In interest of full disclosure, I'm also on the board of directors for Colorado Normal. I function as their communications director. There is a bill coming out that is very harmful to the cannabis community. And many of the people who use cannabis use it for medicinal purposes. In fact, people have moved to the state because we were one of the first to fully legalize cannabis. And a lot of people came here. They were refugees from other states. But unfortunately, and I understand that it was driven by a few tragic incidents, but instead of trying to address the tragedies directly and to prevent further tragedies, they're taking a way of hurting people by limiting the percentage of THC in all cannabis products. So we are going to be asking that, one, if you're on the Central Committee, please support the resolution and it should be circulated around. Second, and please call Representative Caraveo and the people on the committee where this bill may land and ask them to vote no on it. There might be things in the bill that might be okay. Those can be peeled out in a separate bill as appropriate. I don't oppose labeling. I don't oppose research and studies. And I certainly support for our young people. Of course, part of the dynamic is we need health care for all to make sure that we have access to mental health care for young people who are feeling isolated. So there are a whole lot of interconnected issues. And of course, the whole drug war, by definition, we know is classist and racist, and a big waste of money and a big waste of resources that we spend on prisons and such. So anyway, so what we're doing in this part of your DNC is trying to hold people accountable, speaking truth to power, but also we need to listen to you. So feel free to hit us up if you have any thoughts or questions. If I missed anything, Joe, I want to make sure I haven't, but I'm totally in solidarity with our immigrant friends, neighbors, family members, and whether they have documents or not, they are still part of our community, and no human being is illegal. Thank you.
Right. And one of the things, and both Jeri and I forgot to mention this, is, but Jeri did mention the meeting that we had with Hickenlooper the Monday night after his vote, and he was asked no less than 4 times to apologize to community for his vote, and no less than 4 times did he refuse to apologize. There were about, Senator Julie Gonzalez said that there were 62 people. I counted 80 on that call. Somewhere between 62 and 80, there were people there. And, you know, they were really hurt with them, and they wanted him to apologize, and he just refused to do it. So that really left us no other choice but to move forward.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. And, you know, we all saw a lot of that type of defensive behavior in the senatorial primary and the debates between Romanoff and Hickenlooper. Definitely not a lot of cognizance or willing to reflect on those types of decisions that harm vulnerable communities. I saw a question in the chat here. It said, have you received, this is from Barbara Tidd, have you received any response to your letter from the state party? And if so, what?
To borrow a phrase, it's complicated. I know that I think both Joe and I have had discussions with people in the state party. I get what they're trying to do. They want us to play nicely together, which is fine. But the problem is sometimes you need to hold people accountable. And part of playing nicely is not blowing off the community. I think the process that Joe described is a way that I think the state party, I'm not going to speak for anyone in the state party, you can hit them up directly, but I think this presents a way to prevent division and to also, you know, if we sweep this under the rug, what happens is we tell a big part of our communities that your votes don't matter, your voices don't matter. That is a bad message. I think what Joe's outlined is a way to ensure accountability, make sure people are listened to. And one other thing I forgot to mention, when we had this community meeting online, a significant portion of the people who participated were people that voted for Hick in the primary. So these weren't just some, you know, random radical types. These are people in the community who were truly betrayed by him. Joe, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think that you did, Barbara. You know, we've had some tough discussions with party leaders. You know, this has never happened before, and that's what they're concerned about, is that it has never happened before. But I you know, what I indicated was that this rose to a level of such egregious conduct that we had to take this step. I mean, we're not going to use this against every single Democrat who takes a vote on one thing or another. Hickenlooper intentionally took this vote to curry favor with racist, xenophobic Republican senators. And he did that by throwing communities under the bus. And we have sent a message that you don't do that. And it's a warning to every other Democrat out there that wants to engage in such conduct, if they're dumb enough to engage in such conduct in the future. We think that this will definitely serve as an example for every elected official in the state of Colorado who calls himself a Democrat to be very careful on how they approach whether it's amendments or bills or resolutions, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what a knife in the back that is after all of those smear ads against Romanoff for admittedly his fault in his 2006 vote. But to turn around and betray immigrant communities like that is just terrible. And we really appreciate you both taking a stand. One question I had about that is with the Senate, you know, the victory in Georgia, putting us at a 50-50 split with Harris as the deciding vote in the Senate. What does this really mean about the holistic aspect aspects of our majority and maybe perhaps how flimsy it actually is. Do we really need to start considering where our own senators stand? Perhaps, primaries coming up for our other seat in the Senate. I know you've been eyeing that, Joe.
Well, I have this phrase that I developed after I started my tenure as a state representative. Nothing will take the steel out of the spine of a Democrat quite like being in leadership. And we have seen that in the U.S. Senate. It is a tenuous leadership. It's 50-50 majority plus one with Kamala Harris being the deciding vote. But that's never stopped Republicans from moving on their agenda now, has it? That's one thing that they do when they get to the majority is they move no matter what, they move very hard. And with us, we've already seen Joe Manchin lose his spine. We've seen John Hickenlooper lose his spine. We have seen Michael Bennet lose his spine. And it's kind of disgusting because it becomes a very familiar pattern that we've rejected here in the state over the past numerous years. And I imagine that there are going to be primaries of various senators coming up in 2022, and they should be primaried because they don't own those seats. The people own those seats, and so yeah, I mean we have to find good candidates who will be able to fight really hard against those incumbents and set the stage for a progressive takeover of the United States Senate and give Bernie Sanders some help.
Yeah, and just to let you know, I dropped Bennett and Hickenlooper's DC numbers into the chat, and people should consider that an invitation to call them up when there's something that they don't like that they need to hear about. You can also call them when you like something that they do. Bennett did vote the right way on that horrible thing that Hickenlooper voted on. He voted the right way, but he voted the wrong way on the fracking issue. And, it can't hurt for him to be to hear about it. And so I think the bottom line is accountability. There's a long-standing political rule. You never pander to people who aren't going to be voting for your ass anyway. And so that's, something to keep in mind, when we deal with our political leaders and with our friends who are running for office. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can support these two in their effort and any of the others involved with the party who are condemning Hickenlooper for his vote by signing the petition. It'll be in the chat there. And we're going to move on. Thank you so much, Joe and Jeri, for joining us and for taking a stand. We really appreciate it. We're going to move on to some of these local calls to action. And I'm going to pass it on to Anthony really quick to introduce our first one.
Guys, I want to thank you again for joining us this evening. As I said at the beginning, you are what makes this all possible. So I'd like to start by asking for you to sign the petition asking Colorado Democratic Party to censure Senator Hickenlooper and hold him accountable. The link is in the chat. So please grab that link and sign that petition. I want to invite you to join members of Our Revolution Colorado for our next monthly members call. We'll be holding it Sunday, March 21st at 6:30. We will be talking about Medicare for All and the soon-to-be introduced bill by Pramila Jayapal. Now you can RSVP at the link that we will drop into chat.
Excellent.
Again,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead and grab those two for Metro Denver.
Yeah, moving on to other local calls for action. Our Revolution Metro Denver is teaming up with National Nurses United to build support for the expected reintroduction of the Sanders-Jayapal Medicare for All Act. Join other local activists in working to build congressional support for this critical legislation. CO02 Medicare for All District Interest Meeting is coming up on Tuesday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. So we'll be dropping the link there. Following that, we'll be joining Congressman Jason Crow, ORMD Council Member Owen Perkins, and Citizens United's Tiffany Muller for a town hall meeting to discuss campaign finance reform, voting rights, and holding our elected officials accountable this Tuesday, February 23rd at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll be dropping that link in there as well. And lastly, we have local Our Revolution groups are organizing across the U.S. to elect progressives to serve on school boards, county commissions, and local Democratic Party committees to advance our progressive agenda. And we need your help in getting the word out. Will you help Our Revolution organizers call for 2021 membership drive? Join us Thursday and Saturday to help build the movement and continue Bernie's vision. We'll be dropping the link for that one there. And then we're going to move on to some of our national calls to action. And I'm going to pass it back over to Anthony real quick to introduce that.
Thank you, Weston, for all of your help this evening. Of course, guys, I want to remind you again to please step up, become contributing members, become movement builders here in Colorado with Our Revolution. I want to pass it on to Anna Marta. She's going to tell us a little bit about the national calls to action and how you can help Our Revolution continue to expand our progressive power, not just here in Colorado, but across the country.
Absolutely, Anthony, and thank you so much for this amazing lineup. I love to hear about the local initiatives, the local issues, but also Joe and Jeri talk about the need for a progressive takeover from local to national levels. This was an amazing call. I just want to close it out with a couple of calls to action, as Anthony mentioned. We are a national network. We are a national distributed network, and that means that we are a multi-layered organization. We have some national initiatives, federal initiatives, we have state initiatives, and then we have local chapter initiatives, and they all work together, and we support each other's initiatives at every level. So federal initiatives and calls to action. As you well know, some Senate Democrats are threatening to strip the $15 minimum wage from the COVID relief package, and that's unacceptable. They want to make it a standalone bill, and that's not going to pass. If they do that, this won't survive a GOP filibuster. So sign our petition. Anthony, you'll please drop it in the chat. Sign the petition to tell Democrats in the Senate to keep the $15 in the COVID relief bill. This is essential for so many of us, and we cannot stop fighting until we have a living wage for everyone. Ending the filibuster, again, it's so critical. National action. We need to end the filibuster so we can make progress on healthcare, climate, voting rights, and all the issues we care about. Drop the link, please, in the chat for that as well. And then again, just circling back to the membership drive, 2021 February, this month is our membership drive month. We are really making a huge national pitch. Please support our work. As many of you as you can, please sign up. We are asking for as little as $5 a month. Of course, if you have more, we take more, and we take your time and a little bit of your treasure as well. We would like you to volunteer. We would like you to participate in all these actions, but also if you are able, please support us financially so we can plan ahead and carry out our organizing work nationally and locally as well. And then just to show you how much we do, every Monday, I want to highlight a couple of calls that are coming up. Every Monday, groups, Our Revolution groups all across the country are holding Zoom calls like this. And every Monday we are coming together in one national field call that is coming up this Monday at 8:30 Eastern, 6:30 your time. Ed Markey is going to be joining us and a couple of other amazing guests. Every Monday we have a huge discussion about our progressive priorities and the timely issues that we need your help with. So join us on Monday. Maryland is meeting on Wednesday. Interesting discussions everywhere in the country. New York, I work with this group in New York. They are going to hold a very exciting mayoral forum for New York City mayor's race on Thursday. Tune into this. It will be super interesting. Michigan is meeting on Sunday. So as you can see, your contributions help us carry out this distributed organizing all across the country. We are holding progressive gatherings in every corner of America, making sure that we huddle up, we discuss our priorities, we strengthen our networks, we get new volunteers, we get new members into the movement, and we win locally and we scale it up together with a joint effort nationally. So this was our call today. I would like to thank this amazing lineup of guests. I would like to thank all of our local volunteers from different chapters that came together to make this call possible, especially Anthony and Weston, who anchored this call tonight as hosts. So thank you so much. We usually close our call with our motto, with our chant. And at this point, I would like you to all unmute your microphone and chant with me. Our motto is, when we organize, we win, and we prove it every single day locally in different states all across the country and nationally. So say it with me. When we organize, we win. One more time. When we organize,
we win.
Win.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Have a good one.